Welcome to Durham Creative Voices Rising. I am Antonio Alaniz, your host and a visual artist from Durham, North Carolina. Join us as we explore the intersection of art, healing, and community rebuilding efforts in 2024 amidst the challenges of COVID 19 and its aftermath. This podcast explores the role of the arts in public health and how creativity can promote wellness and equity for people in Durham and North Carolina. Let's envision a brighter future for everyone, with artists leading one of the many ways toward innovative solutions and a world of possibility. Hello, welcome. I am Antonio Alaniz, your host, and I welcome you to the Durham Creative Voices Rising. I am so happy to be here today with a highly esteemed person that I've been in connection with so many years. We have Carolina Fonseca Jiménez, who is an amazing author, artist, and dream guide. And we have the pleasure today in interviewing for our Durham Creative Voices Rising. So wanted to welcome Carolina and also thank you so much for being here to talk a lot about the things that are super important. As we talked before, the purpose of the Durham Creative Voices Rising is to invite artists, visionaries, and people who are creative like yourself to tell us about how can we imagine a world that is better for our communities. How can we use specifically the arts to help us achieve that dream, that vision. And I thought about inviting you as a children's book author, as an artist, and as a dream guide. So how are you today?
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm doing amazing. It's always such a pleasure to see you. And it has been a few years now that we've known each other and had an opportunity to connect. So it's amazing to see your growth too as an artist. So congratulations for doing this podcast and advancing your work in the way that you have. But for me, it's just an honor to be in this space. Thank you for creating it. And I'm looking forward to whatever the conversation leads to. So I'm excited for that.
Thank you, Carolina. So let's start with the first question. I first met you through your children's book, Lupita and the Magic of Mexico. Lupita y la Magia de México. Tell us briefly, how did you get to writing? How did you start writing, and how has that allowed you to express yourself?
Mm. That's a deep question, and I'll start with a short story from whenever I was little. So I was brought here at 2 years old to the United States from Mexico, and whenever I went to kindergarten, my mom told them that I needed to be in a classroom that spoke all English, even though I only spoke Spanish. So she insisted on this until they did that. And then after kindergarten, I was completely fluent in English. And so that meant to me that not only did I have the English language, but I also have the Spanish language. So I always carried that throughout my life. And one particular time in third grade, they gave us an opportunity to write a book. They gave you just like this cardboard white paper and little sheets in it. And so I wrote down my first book, and it was called Turtle Money. And it was about this little girl who wanted to get a turtle, but she had to save up her money. She had to do all sorts of chores to get the turtle. And at the end of the story, she got her beautiful turtle and she was so excited. And that was the first book I ever wrote. And I felt so good about it. I felt so proud of it. But then what ended up happening is that, like many of us, I started working. I started taking things very seriously. I started focusing my energy on other things, and I sort of left writing to the side. So, with all of my education, eventually it led me to going to law school. And whenever I was in law school, I was again having a really tough time trying to figure out, is this what I really want to be doing with my life? Because, like, I'm a very creative person. So, I studied law because I said, you know what, this is important. I'm very passionate about immigration, about uniting families. And so I said, maybe this is what I need to do. But it caused me so much stress, Antonio. And I realized it wasn't for me, but it was a gift because during one of those days when I was so stressed, I went to the computer and I just said, like, I give up. I don't know what to do. And I had this phrase, Lupita and the Magic of Mexico, that came to me. And I said, whoa, that's pretty. I typed it in and I didn't know it was going to be a book. I didn't know it was going to be a book title, nothing. I didn't know any of it, but I just knew it felt really good. And so I realized that writing is just something that heals me, something that helps us tell our stories. And I found myself in a tough situation again. And when I sat down that time, the full book of Lupita and the Magic of Mexico just came out of me. And it's interesting because sometimes people ask, how is it that something so loving came out of you when you were so stressed and going through a tough time? And I think it's because as artists, as creative beings, we can't just focus on the pain and the fear. We almost have to flip it and say, what is it that I want to see in my life? How can I bring more love to the situation I'm in currently? And I realized that doing that book, Lupita and the Magic of Mexico, it promoted family unity, and it did that. We were able to send our little book to the border of Mexico, where there's a school called the Sidewalk School. Those are the kids that are asylum seekers, and we're literally waiting in line to be able to cross over to the US. We were able to send them some of our books. And so what I realized was I don't need to go into law to unite families and talk about how important this is. I can use my creative passion to unite them through story and through art. And so that's where I'm at. And I'm not done. Like, we're continuously creating, we're continuously learning new things. So that's where I'm currently at it in this path of life, I suppose.
Thank you so much, Carolina, for that beautiful summary of how you came to your craft, how the school was such a crucial part of your life story to discover and learn about your talent as a writer. One of the things that this podcast is really about, and I really want to jump in right in.
Yeah,
You mentioned something very important, how you use art, specifically writing, as healing, as sharing a message. And I think that a lot of these conversations that the podcast will be about is essentially sharing your experience as a writer, as someone who goes into healing work through the arts, how they can also use this kind of information in their own craft. So my question to you, what would you recommend to people who are doing creative work to promote healing, to promote understanding, cultural love, and so many things that your work symbolizes?
I think in order to be able to do that, at least for me, my experience was I had to reconnect with my roots. Okay, because so like many of maybe the people that listen in on the podcast, um, because I came to this country when I was so young, my parents are from Mexico. I technically am from Mexico too, and that is my culture, but I'm also in the US and it has its own diverse, rich culture. And so what it meant for me was, how am I going to unite these cultures within myself? How am I going to celebrate that? So for me, it took some time of really connecting with my roots, connecting with my grandmother, my abuelita. I had not seen her in 28 years. This little book, Lupita and the Magic of Mexico, eventually led me to that. What happened in the book later happened in real life. I was able to reunite my mom with her mother, who hadn't seen her in 28 years either. So for me, learning about my family, being proud of my family and being proud of the Latino Mexican culture, that was something that I needed to do to heal those broken ties, because we came over here when I was so young and we hadn't had the opportunity to reunite with the family. So for me, it's that piece, connecting with that. But then the other piece is too looking at the future for yourself as an artist. Where is it that you want to go? We know where we came from, we know some of those challenges, but what is that big dream that we have? And not only do we know what it is, but are we brave enough to take a step towards it? Because sometimes what I find, and I've done this with myself before, is I have this dream, I have this vision, and I say, oh my God, this is amazing. I really want to get here. But then the ego comes in and the ego goes, are you sure you can do it? What if people say this, or what if people say that? And so the concern comes in. But something that as artists, I think we need to practice is let go of that fear, let go of the fear and really focus on that dream that we have. Because one thing that I've seen over and over again is not only is art and storytelling healing for the person doing it and telling it, but it's for all of those people around them too, everybody that's participating in that. So I would say that those are the two main things, right? Connecting with your roots, understanding where you come from, but then looking at where it is that you want to go and be brave to take the next best step. And the last thing I'll say on this is we don't have to have the full big picture. You know, something that I learned in school that I'm relearning in a different way is, they'd say, what is your goal? Now, what are all the little steps you're going to take to get to this goal? And for me, as a creative person, I'm like, what do you mean? This is like one path. There are infinite paths. And how do I know that the universe isn't going to grant me something quicker or show me a shortcut, So I think that realizing that we don't have to have every single step, but we've got to be able to take the next best step for ourselves. And we're going to be presented with the next answer. So for me, I think that's how I'd really recap it and say, if we're able to do that, then you're able not only to heal yourself, but provide that healing to other people, whether it's through your art, whether it's through storytelling, writing, music, whatever it is for you.
Thank you, Carolina. Your message speaks to me volumes because when I started as a full-time artist, it's already been 2 years since I went solo. There was a lot of fear and there was a lot of insecurities, but over time, I think what you mentioned captures beautifully that I didn't have to have all the answers, that everything would be revealed as it needed to be, and how everything happened. And I'm just so
Mhm.
grateful that I took that first step of courage and I had the opportunity to follow this dream, which is one of the many ways that we can get to whatever is the future that we want for ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. I love it. And you know what's really cool about you too? It's like you might have that one goal and dream and then you achieve it, but then it's like you get another one. You keep getting another one. And as a creative person, as an artist, for me to see you doing that, to see your growth is really a gift to me too. Because sometimes I'll have a day where I'm like, oh, gee, today's kind of a tough day. I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I want to do that. But when I see people like you continuing to do it too, it's an inspiration for all of us, right? So anyway, I just want to make sure to mention that here because you've done so much since the first time I met you. So it's really cool. It's really neat to see that. I'm very proud of you.
Carolina, muchas gracias. Thank you
Yes.
so much. Um, I definitely want to address the internal battles
Mm,
because you mentioned a lot about uh, the things they might get on our way from dreaming the life that we want to see. And we'll get to the COVID impact in a minute. I just want to contextualize this. Um, other than the things that you mentioned, not um, having not needing to have every single answer in front of you. What advice do you have to people who may be struggling to explore their creativity? Because a lot of the times that I hear from people is that they are also creatives, but they don't know how to start. They don't know how to begin exploring this creative part of themselves because of what people will say, as you mentioned.
I really like that question because I even see the struggles within my own family. So I'll share something with you as an example. My dad, he is such a creative person. He's always worked with his hands. And he didn't have much education, but he is so intelligent in different ways and he offers so many gifts. But I'm so convinced that he is just a creative being, but he has been afraid to explore the creative arts for himself. And I think for him, it's because working was the number one thing he had to do. So there was no time to be creative. He had 5 kids, right? There were 5 of us. So that he didn't have the opportunity. But one of the things that I've seen him do now, his form of artwork is doing things out in the yard. He loves gardening. He loves knowing what kinds of flowers he's planting there. And not to mention, even inside, right? Inside the house, my mom will decorate a certain way, but he says, no, Martita, we need to break the color up there and put this. And my mom gets so upset, Antonio, because she's like, Mija, that does not match at all. It makes no sense. I'm like, Mom, it doesn't make sense to you, but it makes sense because everything is this one light blue, but he said put a hot pink in there because that makes it exciting. So I share that because artwork doesn't have to look like we've always seen it. We've seen paintings, we've seen drawings, we've seen books, we've seen music, we've seen and heard these things, but new art forms are being created every day by people. And I think if you can explore something for yourself, let's say that you're like my dad and you don't know how to be creative, but you enjoy doing artwork, or I'm sorry, you enjoy doing garden work. Do a little bit of that and explore that a little bit, and then also be open to other possibilities. One of the things I've noticed a lot is that people find one thing and they say, this must be my thing. I'm good at it. That's kind of it. But no, that's just the beginning of it. I feel like that's just a little art door opening for you to explore different things. So I would say not to limit yourself. Don't limit yourself with just saying, this is one thing for me. Go ahead and explore other things. And if for whatever reason, you're in a space where you don't feel comfortable enough to express yourself artistically, because at the end of the day, expressing yourself artistically is a brave thing. It takes a lot to do it. And I can tell you from experience, when I first did my artwork, I was so embarrassed to show it to someone because I said, this is like the best that I can do right now. And I looked at it and I said, it's not that great, but I had so much fun doing it, and I had to remember that my artwork doesn't have to look like everybody else's artwork. So I'll finish with this, is that you don't have to find one form, but you have to try them. You have to try different forms to find what it is that you enjoy and let your own creativity guide you. So if you're like, I like writing, but I also like painting, merge them, right? Do something together. I'll give you this last example. So you know me, Antonio, I'm a writer. I love writing, but I also every once in a while I paint. I do my painting in my own style. And one of the things that I've started doing is I painted this beautiful sun and I painted a beautiful moon, okay? Because I love that. I love daytime and I also love nighttime because of dreaming. So I painted it, and then on the back of it, a beautiful quote came to me about the sun, and then a beautiful quote came to me about the moon. So I'm incorporating both of these because to me, that's the way to do it. Whatever it is that you're feeling, explore it and let yourself really have fun with it. So I'll close there because I feel like I can keep giving different examples of things that I've done, because I've explored that myself, right? And I continue to explore. I'm not limiting myself with books and with writing and with artwork. I love music. I'm not very good at singing, but I still like to try it. Maybe I'll get good. I don't know, but I'm gonna try it just because it's fun.
Thank you for defining that standard that can be impossible to meet or even reach or even talk about. Is my artwork even good enough, right? Um,
Yes.
we all start somewhere. When I started illustration, digitally, it was like the best. But over the years, I was able to improve and learn from mistakes, and then improve, and then learn, and then just keep going.
Beautiful. Yes. And I love it too, because when you came to one of our first events, you really participated. You were like all in. And I remember you looking at some of the artwork and just like giving props to people, just saying, that looks great. That looks amazing. And that made me feel so good because if it made me feel good, I'm like, I bet these children feel amazing having Antonio tell them that. And so for me, that meant a lot. And I also will mention this, you left your sugar skull with us. So yours is one of the ones that I always display. Whenever we're doing events, I display it right there so that way they know Antonio was here and he did an artwork with us.
Amazing, amazing. One of the things that I love about your work is that you are very much involved in community building,
Yeah.
building leadership. We can talk so many things about the things that you offer. Um, I think that one of your ways that you do bring healing and awareness about what's happening, specifically about the collectivist trend that is happening right now, about coming together, learning from one another, growing, imagining where we want to go, is that you work a lot with children, schools, and
Mhm.
people who align with that vision. Can you tell us more about your work there?
Yes, absolutely. So, when I first started working with schools, it was just reading the Lupita books, right? So I would show up there, I'd read my book, and I'd call it a day. But as I started going to the schools and listening to the kids' reactions about the book, they would ask me questions like, can we do art with this? Can we do these things? And so the kids really were the ones that guided me because me as a new author, a new writer, I don't know what I'm doing, right? I just know that I created the story and I'm happy about it and I'm sharing it. But I really just answered what the kids wanted. They wanted to do things together. They wanted to create art. They wanted to have fun. So when I started seeing that, that's what I started offering based on our Lupita books. So we offer art workshops with the kids and the families. Now, what we do is we do the little sugar skulls and the butterflies because those are two symbols, two of the main symbols that come out of the Lupita and the Magic of Mexico book. And the reason we picked those two is because the butterfly shows up on every single image of the Lupita books. And so when the kids are reading the book with me, they'll raise their hand and they'll say, I found the butterfly, I found the butterfly. So it's a game that we do with the kids. And then after I tell them, if you remind me, I'll tell you the secret of the butterfly. And I used to just tell them the secret, but now I've learned something really fun. What I do is I ask them, what do you think the secret is of the butterfly? And Antonio, we get so many amazing responses. The one that is my favorite is somebody said that they think the butterfly is Abuelito's spirit, and Abuelito is always guiding Lupita. And when they said that, I said, oh my gosh, it hit me here, like I felt it. And this was like a child in first grade. So when I saw that, I'm like, these kids are so emotionally intelligent. They're so aware. And because of those experiences, I want to give more. I want to give more. And so now what I've done is I offer different workshops depending on the age range. So for example, for the younger kids, we do the art workshops all day long. Last time we went to a school and we did 6 different sessions. So it was like one right after the other. It was intense, Antonio, but we got through it and it was so much fun. You walk out of there with like this high, you're like high on life. And so it was amazing. But that's what we do with the younger ones. Now, once we're getting to middle school, one of the things that I've noticed is that they're still wondering, like, what do I want to be when I grow up? Because they get asked that so often, whether it's by their teachers or by their parents. And so we do career workshops, but it's more of an exploration of career workshops because I remember whenever I was in middle school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. How was I supposed to know, right? So we do different activities to explore what the kids are actually interested in. And then whenever they find out those things that they're passionate about, we explore what are careers within this? What can you do with this? And then I always remind them, I'm like, now, those are the ones that exist now, but what are the ones you're going to create, right? Because everything keeps growing, everything keeps changing. And I remind them that they are leaders, they are creators. So if they want to see something different, if they want to be a writer, a policeman, whatever, there is no need to limit and say, I can only do one. I feel like those days are over. Maybe that was like back in the day, but now, oh my gosh, we are flexible, we are changing, we're creating every day. So that's what I do with our middle schoolers. And then of course, we also do our Lupita plays. If the schools are interested, we'll help direct the Lupita play at their school. And that's one of my favorite things too, because one of the things that I've done with the play is instead of just choosing one Lupita for the entire play, we can choose up to 4. And the reason I've done that is because I believe so much in diversity and inclusion. I want to make sure that the people, the girls or whoever it is that is going to play Lupita, they're from diverse backgrounds. They're from different places, different languages. I want to make sure to incorporate that with Lupita because at the end of the day, her message is to unite families and to unite communities. So what better way to do that than tell a story from Lupita's point of view, but have different people be able to play that role. To me, that speaks volumes. So we enjoy doing that a lot. And then now what I've done is with the college kids, we share our immigration story. And the reason that I save that for the college students is because sometimes those stories can be harder to hear. For me personally, it was really challenging going through the immigration process here in the United States. And some of the parts of the story that I share are really sad, right? They're really sad and they can really get to your feels like that. And so we don't want to bring that to the kids because they're not in a space to receive it. But some of the older kids, the ones that are in college, the ones that are making those tougher decisions, they benefit from it because oftentimes they're first generation college students, or maybe their family has immigrated here from another country and they can relate to it. But we offer that to them too, because I think it's important that people see that it's not just one story of Lupita, right? There's so many different layers to the story. There's the child version and then there's the adult version. So I think that's a good recap of the services. One last one. This is a new one that we've done. But it's a family night. It's our family unity night. And what it is, it invites the family to come together. We read our Lupita 2 book, Lupita and Her Magical Dreams. But then the activity that we do with the families is we invite them to dream big. Okay, we say, what is your dream to each member of the family? What is it? What is that thing that either you want to do, you want to have, you want to be? What is it, right? And then we invite them to either write about it or draw it. And then when they're done, they talk amongst themselves in the family and share their dreams out loud. And now this takes a lot of courage. It takes so much courage because, as you know, sometimes our parents are like, well, I really would like you to do this. Really, I'd like you to do that, right? And sometimes the parents themselves, they're afraid to dream big. They're like, I have kids. I can't dream big. This is all I can do, right? But we invite them into a safe space where they can. They can say that. They can explore it. And then at the end, we invite some of the families that feel really brave and they'll share their family story with everybody. And as soon as they're done, big claps, huge claps, right? Because when other people hear that others are dreaming that big, it excites them. They're like, I want to dream big too. And then what happens? Hands start going up. Everybody wants to share their dream. And what I tell them is this, I say, it's not just about putting it out there, but it's realizing that if you're around a loving community like this, you are literally amplifying your desire. You are literally putting seeds in everybody around you and saying, this is a possibility for me. This is a possibility for my family. And so I'm encouraging them to do that because maybe you've heard this, but I used to hear this all the time and it would really bother me. Don't share your dream out loud. There was so much fear with sharing your dream. And I said, absolutely not. This is something that if you pursue it will help you and other people around you. And if we're all brave enough to share what it is and let them know, hey, this is where I'm headed. And they're like, cool, I'm headed over here. Well, let's go. Let's go. Let's make this happen, right? It's this amazing magical journey that you can take together. Why not do that? You know, I'm really practicing during all of my workshops, we let go of the fear and we allow ourselves to dream big and believe that we can get there. And we encourage others to do the same. So that's why I enjoy it because as you can see, it gets me happy. It gets me feeling joyful. So every time that I'm done with it, it's like, I can't sleep. Did that happen to you when you have such a good experience? You're like, I'm just too excited. I can't sleep.
All the time when I have conversations
Oh,
like these with people who are artists and change makers.
oh my gosh. Well, I'm glad I'm not alone in that.
Thank you so much, Carolina, for giving us a picture and painting a beautiful, essentially, atmosphere of what you are doing for others. The second part of the podcast or this segment, I like to focus more around you as a creative. Before you focus a lot on what you do for people, I would love to focus this now on what you would like for people to help you or achieve the next step as a creative. And I say this because a lot of the conversation about creatives and artists and anyone who I talk to is what's missing right now and how can we get there? What support do you need as a person? Let's say someone who wants to commission you as an artist, as an author. What things would you like to see to help you continue to do this kind of work?
That is a really good question. I appreciate you asking because I don't know that anybody's ever asked me that during an interview, but I can tell you right away because as soon as you said it, I'm already like envisioning what it is. And one of the things that would help me tremendously um, is just having more people share my work, right? Not just the Lupita book, but also the services that I offer. So I would love to see more sharing within schools. Sometimes a school will invite me and that's wonderful, but I would love it if they excuse me, to refer me to another school. And and also you know, it can be a little bit challenging because sometimes I say yes to a school invite and then maybe it's 2 hours, 3 hours away. And so that's like 2 or 3 there and then 2 or 3 back, and then the time that I'm there. So I'd like for schools to be able to have a budget for these kinds of things. And some of them do, right? Some of them do, but others unfortunately do not. And so I try to do as many pro bono visits as I can, but it can be very taxing on me as well. So if there could be funds to help with that work, that would be amazing. But I find that's a piece that I'm struggling with a little bit. And then one way that I'm trying to resolve it is I'm connecting with somebody who does marketing, and they do marketing, usually they do it in California, but they do it across the US. And so they've decided to have a conversation with me, see if it's a good fit, but I'm trying to be proactive with it in that way. But as you can tell, this is one of the areas where I'm not good, and that's why the conversation isn't very fluid, because I need help with that space. So that's where I'm at. Just with transparency, that's where I'm at with it.
Thank you. Thank you for being vulnerable and for expressing the what you need right now, which is two crucial, important topics, which you mentioned, budgeting and also marketing. As an artist myself, I can relate. Um, we all have to pay our bills,
Mhm.
and it's a conversation that I keep having and hearing all the time when people want to pay with exposure, when people want us to be there and provide the service. I love also working with schools and amazing opportunities like that. But at the end of the day, we have to also pay mortgages. We have to
Yeah.
pay
Oh,
for our
yeah.
cell phone bills. We have to pay for retirement, right? We
Yeah.
have to pay for health insurance, right? For food.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
Super important to keep in mind. So what would you tell? And I wonder, what is your conversation about when people don't have a budget? Is there something that you talk to them about? How do you go about that?
So if a school doesn't have a budget, but I know, for example, that it's a school that would benefit from my services. So I'll give you an example. One time a school contacted me, and I'd known that in that school there'd been a lot of racial issues that happened amongst the kids and even with some of the teachers. And so that really touched me. I'd heard stories about it. I saw it on the news one time. And when they invited me to the school, even though they didn't have the funds, I had to go because, I'm like, if I can go as a Latina, Hispanic individual and show that we're a loving community, we're a community that is creative, that is intelligent, we are a people of love. If I can go and show that and give them a different example to look at, as opposed to the same thing that they've been hearing or telling themselves over and over. I want to be able to do that. And so when it's things like that, Antonio, I'm just gonna be honest with you. I just tell them yes, and I just pay for it myself. That's it. And at the end of the day, it can be a little bit challenging, with the budget, but I do it anyway because I feel like it's for the greater good. And you know why else? It's because of this. When I was in kindergarten in Illinois, there was like a week where they would do like Latino week. And you'd think that'd be really fun and amazing. And some parts were, right? But there were these songs that they would have us sing that were so culturally inappropriate. But at that time, I didn't know they were. And so I am singing this song. Other kids are singing this song. And when I look back on it now, I think, oh my gosh, how did they allow us to do that? How did they demean our culture in that way? And so it really aggravates me, Antonio. And that's why now, if I have the opportunity to show something different, we have a Lupita song that another beautiful artist, Alexandra Valladares, wrote for us. I share that song. I give them something different to sing to, as opposed to the songs that I had whenever I was growing up. So I go anyway. And then I think the universe will help me make everything else work out. So it's not practical. I won't say it is,
Right.
but it feels good. And for me, that giving back and being a spark of joy for others, that's more important to me than like the financial piece, right? So anyway, practical people won't like that.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your experience. I think that's beautiful to bring in that experience and being a person who could bring a different perspective they have not heard before and
Yeah.
and use again the arts. It's an education tool. It's a tool for uplifting our communities and promoting cultural awareness and also cultural
Yes.
positivity, cultural pride about who we are as Latinos.
That's it right there. Yep.
Awesome. So, Carolina, we have about 25 minutes or so. The third part of this eh, episode is I want to contextualize also the COVID-19 pandemic.
Mm.
I remember when everything moved to the virtual world, I was part of your a dream um, programming that you
Mhm.
moved when everyone went virtual. I want to talk about how did COVID impact you as a creative, as an artist?
Mhm.
And in the second part of that conversation or question is, how did you use the art to overcome any obstacle that you feel uncomfortable talking about?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. So, for me, like everybody else, everything did turn virtual. So I thought to myself, how am I going to connect with community? Because you know me, I love going to different community events. I love having our Lupita books out there, our arts and everything. So I really had to think about it. And I said to myself, okay, you can just sit in here and not really do much, or you can reconnect with your community in a different way. And one of the things I kept hearing was our dream team family. So I do lives every week or so for my dream team members. And really what they are, they're just individuals like you and me who dream big, right? We dream big in waking state, but we also explore the dreams that we have at night. We find the meaning and we use them to guide us in waking state. And so everybody was having a tough time because we weren't able to really see each other or anything like that. So I started doing dream circles where we'd explore our dreams virtually and we'd talk about those. So I found healing through that and I was able to connect with community through that. And then one of the things we also started doing with our Lupita books, some of the schools would invite us to join virtually. So we would do that. But one of the things I found very interesting was that the schools, instead of wanting Lupita 1, usually they wanted that one, Lupita and the Magic of Mexico. Well, this time they were asking for the other one, Lupita and her magical dreams. And I found that really interesting. And so what I started doing was not only would I read the book, but then I would walk kids through a relaxing meditation. So that way they could have beautiful, calming dreams. And then for that moment of time, just 10 little minutes of meditation, they could be in that space of just love and joy and relaxation. Because, we were all going through a tough time, not really realizing what the future would look like. So I felt I had to be intentional about what it is that I do. And so I did those two things. I did the dream circles for the adults, and then for the kids, I offered Lupita and her magical dreams plus the meditation. So that was something new because I'd never done that before. But yeah, I think that's what COVID-19 did for me. And maybe it did it for a lot of us. We're like, okay, this is not an option, but what is? Because we are creative people. So it has to go somewhere. We've got to have some kind of an outlet. So yeah, that's what I did, and I'm sure other people did different things like that too, to be able to express themselves.
Great, thank you. So that was when the COVID-19 pandemic hit. I wonder, how are you still dealing with COVID-19 and its aftermath now as we begin, or as we are building and rebuilding now in 2024 through your
Yeah.
art?
It's really strange. You know me, I'm a loving, positive, happy person. That's just how I am. But I will say that time feels strange. That's the main thing for me. I feel that when COVID happened, it was a huge pause. It was a pause on life. It was a pause on doing things the normal way. And it was like a reset too. It was like reset yourself to the new normal. Okay. So it was a moment to reset myself. And now I just find that the time really flies by. It really escapes from me. Like when I looked today and I saw April 8th, I was like, where the heck did the time go? Excuse me. You know what I mean? But where did the time go? And I almost feel like those years of COVID, even though I connected with community in my own way and was trying to be proactive, I I just feel like they didn't happen. They did not happen. And so I think that's the only thing that's kind of lingering, just a bit of confusion, I suppose, because as I'm talking about, I'm like, yes, it feels a little bit like that. But I think where I'm trying to head is just realizing that it doesn't have to look like it was before. So, for example, I'll give you one example with work. I used to go to work every single day, Monday through Friday kind of thing. And then if I had events, I'd go Saturday and Sunday. Well, now I'm only going to the office 3 days out of the week. And what that does for me is it gives me some flexibility at home. It allows me an opportunity to spend more time with my pets, which are right over here. So, I do want to mention that something positive and loving did come out of it. And that was, I think, the community understanding of what it means to be a good worker, what it means to be a good employee. It doesn't mean that we need to, I'll say it like slave away at your job. There's such a thing as work-life balance, and we need to really allow ourselves to have that balance. So for me now, it's this beautiful readjustment of what my life looks like now. And that's what I'm trying to focus on. I'm trying to focus on that piece of it instead of for feeling like what happened during those years. You know what I mean? That's what helps me keep going.
Absolutely. I echo those sentiments. It's been 4 years already, and I don't know where time went, and I
Yes,
totally, totally
it's
understand, and I feel
flying
it in my
by.
work.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Awesome. Thank you. Are there any I know you shared some input. Is there any advice that you would tell other people, other creatives, on lessons that helped you or are helping you right now, to offset a lot of these negative things that happened during COVID and as we begin to rebuild our building?
Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of things that I do for myself to help me with this. I'll start with one. It's eating a little bit better. What I noticed is when it was during COVID, I would just kind of eat whatever I wanted, little snacks here and there, a little too much chocolate maybe. And so I wasn't really taking care of my body like I should. And I'm a big person about taking care of mind, body, and soul. So for me, now I'm trying to be more conscious about that, trying to be more conscious of the things that I'm eating. I still like my junk food. I still like my chocolate, but I'm working on the balance. I got to balance it out. So that's one thing, just making sure that what you're putting in your body does make you feel good. And then the other thing is just being able to have mental health. I think sometimes we don't talk much about mental health, but it's so important, right, to be able to do things so that we do feel good. So that way, if there are things that are bothering us, maybe from childhood, from the past, if we haven't been able to let go of those things, getting help when we need to. I think that's something that our community sometimes struggles with. And, quite frankly, what I'd like to see more therapists and counselors that are Latino, that are Hispanic, because I think that would really help me personally and our community. I think that would be something that would be great. And then the other thing is always the arts. I always find time to do something artistic for myself. So one day this happened again. Okay, it was last year already, April of 2023, but I'm barely acting on it now. And I'm going to tell you real quick. Okay, so in April 2023, I was having just a really tough day. It was it was like everything was coming together and I'm like, what's happening? And it wasn't coming together in a good way. So I had a moment of like, I freaked out a bit. I freaked out a bit. And I said, well, let me go to my computer because that writing always helps me. And I wrote my third book, Lupita Meets the Magic of Mother Nature. Okay. I wrote it that day. And we talked about this earlier, budgeting and all that. Well, because of the budget and everything, I couldn't start publishing until this year. And so now this year, I've connected with my editor, I've connected with my illustrator, and we're starting the process again because we need to get that book. We need to get it out. We need to be able to share it with families. And for me, that's it. It's remembering, bringing myself back to center and doing that thing that makes me happy. And I'm going to tell you honestly, not waiting, not waiting for me to have a moment of the world is falling for me to start writing, but just write to write. So I will say that's something I've been doing for myself. And I do encourage other people to do that. We don't have to wait until it's a tough time that we have to have an outlet, right? Let's make it part of our life because I feel if we make it part of our life, our everyday, it will be richer that way. And we'll see how we grow with the artwork. And this last thing I'll say, one of the things I've noticed too is how our dreams change. So for example, for me, I always get a lot of dreams anyway since I was little. But when you see the different dreams that come, let's say for a week, you're having dreams that make you anxious, make you nervous. Well, that's letting us know that that's how we're feeling right now. That's how we're operating our life in this moment in time. But once you start doing different things for yourself in waking state, maybe you're walking, maybe you're doing your artistic things, you're finding your outlet. Once you do that, it not only provides healing for waking state, but when you go to sleep, your dreams begin to change. You start noticing how much better you're doing because your dreams will improve and they'll be more loving. So that's another practice. That's like my gauge. Once I start having uncomfortable dreams, Antonio, I know, whoa, I got to take a huge pause and like a step back. I got to reevaluate my life because that is a loving alert from myself. So those are just a few of the things I do. I'm sure I've got others, but those are the main ones.
Amazing. It's just listening to yourself and using dreams as a guide to help you
Yes.
recenter, go back to where you are from and where you are. Beautiful. So with these few minutes left, is there something that you would like to say that you would like to add that maybe that we missed talking your about your life as an artist, as an author, as a playwright?
Yeah, I guess the last thing I'll say is just reemphasize that we don't have to be one type of artist. I did this to myself. I've done this to myself where I say, okay, Lupita, you can write pretty good children's books. So just stick to that and you'll be good, right? I think that that's a huge error that I would have committed for myself and really for the community because when we start limiting our artistic skills and saying this is the one thing, we're not allowing ourselves to really be ourselves. We're not allowing ourselves to grow and change like we need to. So one of the things that I did actually during COVID, I forgot to mention this piece, is I wrote my adults book, Your Dream Guide. And it's an adult version of the Lupita and her magical dreams. And it really helps us connect with our dreams, remember them, and understand what they mean to us. So it's not an interpretation. It doesn't do that, but it guides you because I truly believe that everyone understands what their dreams mean, but oftentimes they don't pay attention to them. So now we just need to be guided a little bit to understand what they mean to us and then use them to guide us in waking state. And so for me, being able to do that and realizing that I can do children's books, I can do adult books, I can paint if I want, if I decide to sing today, I will, right? I think that we all need to be okay with being fluid beings and know that if we decide to do something different, that's okay. Because guess what? You're gonna do that and you're gonna realize either I like it or I don't like it. But if I don't do it, I'll never know. So I want to finish with that. If I don't do it, I'll never know. And I'm saying it again because oftentimes we have this idea and we're like, oh, gee, I don't know. I'm afraid of X, Y, or Z. And we don't do it. But if you don't do it, how are you going to know? You might be amazing at it. You might love it. So this year, that's literally what I'm doing. That's what our dream team is doing. We said we're letting go of the fear and what we desire, we're just going to do it because we don't know what's going to happen. It could be amazing. It could be magical. And we won't know until we try it. So that's what I'll leave you all with. That's what I'll leave you with.
Carolina, your wisdom is just so pouring. Thank you for
Cool.
sharing where you're going next, and I'm excited to see where you continue to grow. To close us off, conclude the episode, where can people find you online, social media handles, anything you'd like to share?
Thank you. Yes, the easiest place is lupitainspires.com. I am active on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, etc. But if you go to lupitainspires.com, you can find all of that. Wherever you like to go, I'll meet you there.
And people can look you up and request artist talks, author workshops. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. So we have all of our services listed on our Lupita page as well. So yep, please make sure to invite us. We'd love to go. And you know what, Antonio, I decided to dream big this year and I'm going to go to other states. I'm opening myself to go to other states. I said, yes, universe, bring it on. So if you're listening to this and you're not in North Carolina, that's cool. Invite me to your state and I will be there.
There we go. So we conclude
Yay.
with the amazing Carolina and all her beautiful world of art and love and unity. So, Carolina, muchas gracias. Again, thank you so much for being here. And please stay tuned for the next episode of the Durham Creative Voices Rising.
Thank you, Antonio. Congratulations on everything you're doing. And I will keep on listening in to see all the other amazing people you have on here. Thank you so much.
Gracias. This Durham Creative Voices Rising episode is proudly supported by Bull City Strong and its Say Something Strong project. Bull City Strong is a community-based partnership aimed at reducing the increased risk of COVID-19 among historically marginalized populations in Durham County, including Black and Hispanic communities. This podcast is brought to you by Antonio Alanis Art, where we are dedicated to amplifying artists' voices and fostering wellness within our community through the arts. Here are 4 ways that you can show your support. Join the conversation in your community on how the arts can create a healthier and more equitable world for everyone. Leave a review of this podcast wherever you listen to it. Share this episode with other artists and community leaders who believe that the arts are crucial to moving forward in a world with COVID-19. Visit the Bull City Strong Durham page at the Durham County Department of Public Health and explore Antonio Alanis Art website at antonioalanisart.com. Thank you for your support.